Greetings, welcome back. Today on the bench we have count them, 2, Kortek KT-1420 Alpha. And they're a bit different version, and by that I mean this one here says has the Kortek branding on it, and it says KI-2-VO, and this one does not. But they're the exact same thing. Just a newer versus older version. So these were given to me to try to repair. Only one of them needs to operate. They were both sent to me to try and get at least one of them working. So that's going to be the game plan here. This one here is missing the voltage regulator. So obviously this one's not going to work, and I don't think I have a spare one. It'd be nice to be able to get both of these going. I have cap kits that I can put on each one of these, but I don't think I have any flybacks. I think this one is a parts chassis because all this hot glue right here, I'm pretty sure that the flyback is cracked and it's arcing to the frame and it took out something, who knows. That's the only explanation I can come up with for why all this hot glue is here, and the voltage regulator is missing. So we're probably going to end up having to use this one for parts, which is fine. Yeah, there's no backstory to what these are as far as operational. I don't know if one of them worked and one didn't, or if this was actually sparking and arcing or not because of a crack. I don't have that information. These were just in a box of parts, and he wants to get them working, or at least one of them. So I got a feeling we're going to have to use this one for parts, which is fine. So let's focus on this one. Actually, as a matter of fact, if I saw earlier, just let me show you. One thing I noticed is that the fuse holder is broken. We can see this part of the fuse holder is damaged and loose. So I didn't look over it too much more than that. And this one has no fuse installed at all down in here in this location. The fuse is totally missing, but this one's present. So probably have to rob the fuse from this one to put on here. And I was looking over this after I got it out of the packaging. I did give it a look over, and it looks to be completely original, except that somebody has either replaced it or messed with the horizontal output transistor, because it's got some recent rework done to it. So that's quite obvious. So I don't know if somebody replaced it, but that does appear to be the original part from what I can recall from the ones I've worked on before. This is actually different from this one. This one is C3042, so someone's been messing with this. You see the thermal compound, and it's crooked, and the insulator's crooked, so someone's been messing with this one. And this one, I think that's the original part, C2555, but I think someone's been doing some reflow and solder work on it, so I can't say for sure. But what I did notice is some bad factory solder joints here. Right here. Okay, so look at this. Oh, come on, you dumb camera. All right, a little more. There we go. So right there, this is a factory joint, and that's a factory joint. And where was that other one that was bad? There was another one over here somewhere that was also very iffy. Just looking over it here, I don't see where it was. There was another one I saw that was kind of iffy, but these right here, yeah, that hasn't been messed with. And I don't know if that is loose. Hey, someone's at my front door. I'm not expecting a package. I'll have to go see who that is, but I think, yeah, that's loose. Look at that. I just pushed it through. So bad solder joint there. Probably this one's bad too, so that could be a contributing factor to whatever's wrong with this. I don't have history, like I say, on what the issue is with this. Don't know if it works, don't know what the problem was, don't know if it has collapsed, don't know if it powers up, no idea. Hold on, I gotta see who that is, hold on. Okay, sorry about that. That was a solicitor trying to sell me stuff and not interested. Alright, so I guess what we can do is, since there's a fuse, this fuse is missing, let's just steal the one from here. I'm surprised it's even still in there with the broken holder. Okay. And it appears to be good. So let's Measure it. Continuity. All right. I forgot to mention there's a bag here of parts and resistors. Screws, washers, nuts, and a couple of resistors. And I think these may be parts for this, but it's missing the, I mean, everything is gone. The insulators, the plastic insulators, the capacitor that goes across it, all that stuff that is on this one, it's all gone off this one. So I couldn't really even get this working if I wanted to. I don't have those parts. So we're obviously going to have to use this one for parts, and it came with this bag of random screws, nuts, and a couple of resistors. Alright, so now that we have this fuse and it checks good, let's go ahead and slot it in here. Okay, what about our main input fuse? That's good. And let's go ahead and check our, there's a 5 ohm resistor here. I'm trying to think of, remember what this R612. Okay, R612 is this white ceramic resistor in here with the 509 on it. It's supposed to be 5 ohms. If this resistor is reading way out of tolerance, or it's not reading 5 ohms, then it could be a cause of multiple problems. So the first thing we're going to do is actually test to make sure that it reads 5 ohms. And if we come in here and test it, it reads 5.1. All right. So we can bet that we don't have any problem with that. Let's check our horizontal output transistor. Again, is this guy right there. So just like any other HOT, it should read voltage drop across each leg. On diode mode, with meter and diode mode, so negative lead on center and 0.5 voltage drop to one leg. Yep, 0.563, and should be the same or close to it to the other leg. Yep, same thing. So HOT is not shorted. I can't say that it's working. All I can say is it's not shorted and it's not open, so it should work. Voltage regulator. This is our voltage regulator over here, right there, and we can test it pretty much the same way. We put our negative lead on the case of it, which I just put my lead in the screw head. And then we touch each leg in here of the IC, and we should get 0.5 to each side. 0.463, close enough, and the other leg is 0.463. So voltage regulator is not shorted, HOT is not shorted, our fuses aren't bad. I forgot what that was already. R612 is not bad. I guess what we can do is let's fix those bad solder joints on those diodes. I think they were diodes. No, those are jumpers. That might explain some problems. That's the one I pushed out. There you go. And if we look on the bottom, there they are. So let's quickly reflow those. I don't have my iron on again, the amateur channel. While we're waiting for that to heat up, let's give a look over real quick of anything else that we might need to reflow before we try and test this. I swear there was another spot that I had seen that caught my eye, but I don't, maybe it was on the other one. It might have been on the other one. Let's check our bridge rectifiers here first. Okay, this should be 0.5. This should be 0.5. This should be 0.5. And this should be 0.5. Okay, bridge rectifier appears to be good. These two ICs here are for vertical deflection. So yeah, I don't have a history on this, so I don't know if it's got collapse or if it worked at all. I don't know. So let's find out. Let's reflow these two joints and anything else that we need to do. Let's just hit both sides of these jumpers here. Again, that's why inspection is very important. Whenever you get something like this and you got problems or you suspect it's got issues, step number one is always a really good inspection. So let's just give this a look over and see if we can spot, oh, sorry about that, see if we can spot anything else here that would make us second guess turning this on without reflowing stuff. Not sure about what's going on with that. That's just a hole. I was just looking at that Q201 there. That center leg of Q201 looked kind of odd. I know you don't matter, but OCD. Okay, there we go. All right. Yeah, yoke headers look okay. I don't see anything else right initially that would make me say, okay, that's the problem. So looking around, yeah, I think our problem might have been these jumpers. If we follow those two jumpers that had bad solder joints, they run to across D503, which just comes off the flyback. The other one runs to here, which is R607, which comes across our main fuse here. Actually, I'm sorry, the main fuse is up here. This fuse over here, which is part of the deflection circuit. So that very well, whatever was wrong with this, very well may have been those bad solder joints. So I guess at this point, let's, I have a complete monitor of this model with the appropriate tube and yoke and everything. I even have one of these working that's on it that we can use for testing and troubleshooting as a reference if we need to. So let's go grab that. Given the fact that both our fuses are good, bridge rectifier is okay, our R612 down here, the 5 ohm resistor is good. Again, if that 5 ohm resistor reads way out of tolerance, then that is usually a sign of something wrong in the power supply section here. But if you've got this, if this fuse down in here is blown, chances are you got something going on with the R612 in there. So, given that everything tests okay, HOT, voltage regulator, R612, bridge rectifier, fuses are okay. We didn't check the B plus resistor. I think it's around 180 ohms, give or take, if I recall. I can't tell. Uh, 300 ohms, seems kind of high. But that may be going through other components, because I don't think, it's unlike the Wells Gardner monitors, the B plus resistor doesn't go directly to the voltage regulator. It's going through some other components. For instance, it runs to here across through R612. So, I guess I'm not really going to worry too much about it. This one doesn't have a voltage regulator installed, and I think it's supposed to be around 180. Yeah, 185. Well, let's go grab the working one that's on the working tube and the setup, and let's see if we can get at least one of these to work. It'd be nice if this thing works right out of the gate, and all that was wrong with it was those bad jumper solder joints. If that's the case, we can clean this up and cap it, and that'll about be the end of the video. A nice quick short one. It'd be nice to have a quick short one for once. So let's get that stuff and come back and see if we can make this work. Okay, so I've got the chassis on the tube here ready to test, but I don't have the neck board hooked up because I want to do some show and tell I forgot to do before we got to this point. So the KT1420A there's two versions of this, just like there's two versions of the K7000. On the 19-inch K7000, there's two versions, a 7-pin and a 9-pin. What I mean by that is that the tube itself has either 7 pins or 9 pins. And if we look at the neck board here, this is a 7-pin. Now what I mean by that is that there's 7 pins on the tube. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 7 pins here. And then there's an alternate version of this where it has 9 pins. There's 9 pins and 7 pins. So when you hear people talk about a 7-pin tube or a 9-pin tube, that's what they're referring to, is there's 7 pins on the socket versus 9 pins on the socket. Now what's important about this is that this one is the same way. You can see here that there are seven pins. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pins. Don't count, the focus pen doesn't count. So I wanted to point that out, that these are both the 7-pin variant. And I need to carefully, without disconnecting the ground, hook this up. Okay, I have not turned this on yet, so we'll find out if this works right out of the box after reflowing those jumpers. We'll find out what happens here. But I wanted to point out that there are two versions. Now, this is a K7000 tube. Now you're thinking, how could the Kortek work on the K7000? Because the Kortek uses a high impedance yoke. What I mean by that is that, like the G07 and the K4900 and the K4600 and the Kortek here, they all use the high impedance yoke, where the horizontal windings are about 2 ohms on all of them, but the vertical and the high impedance can range between 30 ohms to 60 ohms. That's on the 9-pin. Now these are the 7-pin. Again, the 7-pin neck connection is a dead giveaway that these actually use a low impedance yoke, like the K7000, where it's 2 ohms for horizontal and about 8 to 11 ohms for vertical. So with this being the 7-pin variant of the Kortek, it does not require the high impedance yoke, it requires the low impedance yoke. So the 9-pin version of this will use the high impedance yoke, where the vertical's around 50 or so, 50 to 60. Well, 30 to 60, I think it depends. But the 7-pin version will use the low impedance yoke, where the vertical is only 8 to 11 or so. And that's what this is. So we're able to test this on a K7000 tube. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to test this. I am not even aware, have I ever even come across a high impedance 7-pin connection setup. I've never seen that before. So the 7-pin version uses the low impedance yoke, so you can use a K7000, standard K7000 7-pin tube to test the 7-pin KT1428. Okay, with that out of the way, let's set this parts 1 back aside here. And as a matter of fact, I forgot to turn my light off here, so let's do that. All right. Okay, fingers crossed. We tested everything. HOT voltage regulator, B+ resistor, R612 I think it was, the 5 ohm ceramic, fuses, bridge rectifier. We looked to make sure none of our other solder joints were bad. So I'm thinking that the only thing that was wrong with this was the bad solder on those jumpers. So we're looking to see if this even turns on, and if it does, what kind of image we get. Let's turn this on just as a precaution. Okay, we're all hooked up. Let's find out. 1, 2, 3. Ah, it comes on. But does it work? It does. All right. We gotta adjust vertical hold. Is the horizontal vertical hold is this one. Got it. Okay, sorry about that. Let's zoom out a bit. That's as far as I was going. Okay, vertical size is labeled here as V height. So let's see if we can make that look. Hey, all right. I think we got lucky. Awesome. It needs to be shifted over, and I mean, I'm not worried about that so far yet, but yeah, awesome. We have RGB, I think we do. Yep, sure enough. Outstanding. Look at that. Well, finally, a quick and easy one. So, yeah, I think the only thing wrong with this might have been just those bad solder joints on those jumpers. So I will clean this up. I will do a full cap kit, reflow, and inspection, and then we'll come back and give it one final test. And that should fix up this quite nicely. Again, both of these were sent, they were in a box with a bunch of stuff, and He told me that he just wanted to get at least one of them working and sent both of them, and I could use this one as a parts chassis, but I didn't end up needing to use anything off of it at all. So that's great. Yep, I'll get the caps done and reflow and inspection and clean up a bunch of the dirt as best I can. We'll come back and do a final test and make sure it's all good to go. Give it a normal burn-in time, and we'll call this one done. Alright, so I've got the chassis all cleaned up, full cap kit, full reflow, full inspection, everything is secure, the whole 9 yards, neck board reflow, everything that I normally do to these is done. But I made a mistake, and I don't want to give out incorrect information. If you look at these, they appear to be identical. If you give it a quick glance, there is no difference at all. However, that's not correct. I had mentioned before they're both a KT-1420A. They even both say KI-2-VO and where was it? KI-2-VO. But they are different, and the only real main difference is this right here. So see how there's only one capacitor right here next to this vertical IC? There's only one. If you look at this one, there's two. And I found this doing the cap kit, because the cap kit I had that I was installing on this was for a KT-1420A. When I got to this point, I'm like, okay, these not only were these two caps not even on the sheet or have the ratings, the ones I took out of here were 100 volt 22 microfarad, both of them, and they were not in the kit for this one, because this one is not a 100 volt 22 microfarad. As a matter of fact, it's a 250 volt 10. On the KT-1420A, it's a 250 volt 10. There's only one capacitor. On this one, I'll get to which model this is in a moment. On this one that I thought was a 1420A, there's two caps here, and they're both 100 volt 22 microfarad. So I had to pull some of these out of my spare bag of extra caps, so I was able to complete the cap kit. But I gave this a really good look over, and the only difference that I can find is this part of the chassis that has the two caps versus the single cap, 250-10 versus 122. So other than that, that's the only difference I've been able to notice. There may be some other ones, but technically speaking, they are, for all intents and purposes, identical, except this is not a 1420A. This is a KTA-915. So, yeah, these are not the same. KT-1420A, KTA-915. And I'm sure you can understand why I thought they were both the exact same, but they are not. And I found this out when doing the cap kit and noticed this capacitor discrepancy. So, yeah, even though they both say KI-2-VO, KI-2-VO, this is a KTA-915 and then a KT-1420A. So I have no way to know if this will work on the low impedance yoke like this one will. We already know this one will, and it's been confirmed by just a few moments ago for you guys. But because this is missing so many parts, no voltage regulator, the insulators, fuse holder was bad, because there's stuff wrong with this and I can't actually test this or work on it, and most likely a flyback that's arcing to the frame, I can't test this, so I don't know with any accuracy whether or not this will work with the low impedance yoke. But because it's a 7-pin, just like this is a 7-pin, I'm sure that it would, but I can't say for sure. But this one we know for a fact will, and it's compatible with the low impedance yoke. So now that I have all the correct work done, all the reflow and the inspection and the cleanup, I took my brush here and brushed off all of the dirt and the contaminants, so it's clean. It's recapped, inspected, reflowed, everything that I normally do to these. Neck board work as well. All the pots are set back to center so we can get a good baseline. And yeah, so this will be back as part of a parts chassis setup. But I wanted to point that out because I made that mistake. I don't want to give incorrect information out. So yeah, this is a Kortek KTA-915. And the only real difference between this and the 1420A are these caps in this location. There could be some other differences. I gave it a pretty good look over in comparison, and that's all I noticed. And the only reason I even noticed that was because the cap kit for the 1420A had that discrepancy. So anyway, alright. That being said, let's get this back on the tube and give it one final test, and we'll call this complete. Okay, here we go. All hooked back up. Anode, neck, yoke, ground, power, and video, and there's no remote board. Everything, all the pots are on the chassis itself. and all of the color pots are set to center here, and the color pots are set to center right there. And we're going to go ahead and turn on test pattern generator, and we are going to hope that it turns on, nothing blows up, no backwards caps, and everything still works and looks good. So here we go. 1, 2, 3. Yes, it does come back on. And what do we get? If anything, okay, outstanding. Nice. It's a bit darker than it was because I turned all the pots down. Of course it is. H position is way over here. Let's try and settle this up to where it's centered right about there. Perfect. Okay. And let's, vertical looks pretty good. Let's do brightness. That's all the way up. That's not enough. Okay, so let's do focus. Let's turn up our screen pot slightly to, let's say, roughly there. Alright, that looks pretty good. Now let's do brightness again. And we're a bit too bright, so let's go down to right there. And I gotta say, that's pretty darn good. Outstanding. Okay, let's make sure that we have width control. So let's go in here into our width coil and make sure that we can adjust this. So, oh yeah. Sweetness. We're gonna leave it right about there. Fantastic. Nice, quick, easy one this time. Finally, I can get one across the bench that doesn't take an hour or produce an hour-long video for. So, okay, we had some bad solder on some jumpers that got it to work, and then we did some full reflow and cap kit and neckboard rework and everything. That's about all it took. So, finally, nice to have one, a nice, easy one. I can't hook up an actual PCB because of the way this is set up. This connector here that runs off of the JAMA is the 10 pin, and as you can see, if I try and plug that on here, it won't work because it'll hit those sync switches. So I have to use the test pattern generator, but as we can see, it is operational and working, producing a fantastic good image. It's not jumpy, it's not wavy, everything looks and works perfect. So I'll give this a couple of hours. I'm gonna have to figure out a way to actually hook this up, probably, because I don't want to run the test pattern generator for 2 or 3 hours straight. I'll kill the battery. But I'll figure something out. But anyway, yeah, assuming it doesn't explode after the burn-in or while it's burning in, I'll say it's a successful repair. So, yeah, thanks for watching. I know I learned something. I don't think I ever seen a 7-pin KT1428 variant, which was the KTA-915. I've never seen a 7-pin version of either one of these. But apparently, I don't know about the 1420A. The other one sitting over here. Like I say, I don't know. I can't say about this one. But for this one, absolutely sure it does work with the low impedance yoke for the 7000, as we can see. If this was not compatible, I would not be able to produce a full image. Either the image would be way too tall and it would not come down, or it'd be too skinny and I wouldn't be able to increase it. So this is absolutely compatible. There's no doubt about it. So if you come across a KTA-915 and it's a 7-pin, you'll have to get yourself a 7-pin 7000 tube, but otherwise, yeah. So I appreciate it. If you get, well, let me go back. I appreciate you watching. Thank you very much. Like, share, and subscribe. But one last thing. If you do come across one of these and it has a 9-pin connector, more than likely you'll have to get the high impedance yoke, the one that's between 30 and 60 for the vertical. So just putting that out there as well. Anyway, yeah, so thanks again. I learned something. Hopefully you learned something, and we'll see you next time.